Yes, transfer market, I think in the last few years, I would say in the last 7-8 years, completely changed thanks to social media.
So,
Hello.
Fabrizio, here we go.
Here we go, we can say.
A new manager just confirmed Spurs have Antonio Conte.
It's Conte Day now. Spurs is Italian Day. Spurs because the director of football, Fabio Paratici, did it. And so Antonio Conte is the new Tottenham manager. It was official a few minutes before we started our talk.
And it's going to keep you in a lot of, it's going to keep you in business. The transfer window, the next transfer window, just in England alone, is going to be explosive.
Yes. I'm sure next transfer window for the Premier League will be huge. Let me say as always, because in Premier League is where we see the biggest things, in particular in the last years, also because Spanish football is not an easy moment with Barcelona and Real Madrid. I expect next summer in the Premier League to see fantastic things for top clubs, as with also this summer with Jack Grealish, Romelu Lukaku, of course Cristiano Ronaldo, and many others.
The fascination, obsession with transfer gossip. You've crested this wave. So explain to me your introduction to that world and why you think people, particularly in England, are so fascinated by transfers.
Yes, transfer market, I think in the last few years, I would say in the last 7-8 years, completely changed thanks to social media. Till maybe 10 years ago, it was completely different. People were waiting for transfer news to be maybe on a paper or on a TV show, and that's it. So waiting for the moment, but not waiting always for the breaking news to come for transfers. Now with the social media, and it was my luck, and I was feeling super lucky on this, to be honest. Thanks to social media, they want the news in these moments. Thanks to social media, thanks to Twitter, thanks to Instagram, and many others, you can tell people what's happening right now. So for transfers, this is something really important because you can share the moment, and not just the story, the details. For example, how long will be the contract, what kind of release clause, many details of the story. And this is something that people are really loving. I feel people loving transfers at the same level they love football games.
That's really interesting. I think that's the transformative moment. You have the delivery mechanism through social media, but you also have now access to the story as it evolves. It's not contract is signed, man with scarf over his head. It's the deal where somebody at the club wants the story to get out that we're talking to these people. That's the bit, isn't it?
Yes, I think on a journalistic point of view, the big luck we have is that now in a transfer story and in a transfer news, we have many people involved. And it is something that changes the game on a journalistic point of view, and also for me, of course, because you have the club, and into the club you have many different directors. So you can have director of football, technical director, people close to the president, in some cases also the president himself. So the manager, many people into the club. But you have the agent, and when you say the agent, it's not only himself, it's about the agency. And into an agency you can have 5 or 6 or 7 different people working on a deal. So there are many people involved, and then you have intermediaries. So relationship are key, networking is so important for journalists. But right now, about the sources involved in the story, in the transfer story, there is a lot of people, and this is something so positive because you can try always to make something.
We have the delivery mechanism, we have the interest of the fans, and now we have way more people who can actually tell you the story. It's a perfect combination.
Yes, you can have also random people sometimes, because of course you have agents, you have intermediaries, you have people into the club, you can have players sometimes too, trying to text you and to let you know, okay, I want to have my news on social media, and so they're trying to push the story also by themselves. But sometimes it's also about random people. I receive messages sometimes on Twitter or on Instagram, people telling me, Fabrizio, there is the director of Tottenham or Manchester United on a plane to go to Italy. Maybe he's going to meet with Inter or with AC Milan. So, it's crazy. I spent the first years of my career as a journalist around the city in Milan because everything I'm based in Milan, and everything that happens in football in Italy is in Milan, and not just in Italy, let me say, because there are many people from international football. Going around was so important, around the hotels, around the restaurants, try to meet with people, to start this networking was so important to me to start.
Before you tell me that part of the story, because I think that's really interesting, that's the hard work, that's the bit that's, they're the hard charts that you can't cheat in your career. There's a lucky break before that, is there? What's the very first story that you get that gives you the idea that actually this is what I want to spend my life doing?
My first story ever was a crazy one, and was about Mauro Icardi, Paris Saint-Germain striker now, but he was at Barcelona. Mauro was at Barcelona B. He was not playing. Pep Guardiola was the manager, and we know that Pep Guardiola is not always playing with the number 9, the typical number 9, and Icardi is number 9, so he wanted a different kind of player. And I received a call. I was 17. I received a call from an agent. I still don't even know how he had my phone number. Okay. It was an Italian agent, but a very small agent, nothing important like Raiola or Mendes. We are not at this level. And he called me, and he told me, Fabrizio, please, I know you're writing on some website, small websites in Italy, nothing important. Can you share an article about Mauro Icardi and Gerard Deulofeu? Now he's a Udinese, former Watford player, Everton player. I said, yes, of course, I can do it. Send me some information about these boys, and I will do it. They were not famous, Icardi and Deulofeu. They were in the second team of Barcelona. I did it. And then we started our relationship. And so my first news was Mauro Icardi from Barcelona to Sampdoria. But then the following one, the big one, was when Mauro Icardi was moving from Sampdoria to Inter. In Italy was so important. And he told me this news in November. It was November. And he told me next summer Mauro will go to Inter. I said, how is possible? It's November. He told me, trust me, he will go to Inter. I shared the news. Then it was official 6 months later, and people were getting crazy. So I was 18. This is how it started.
Okay. That bit where you then immediately understand that the end of the story is not the start of the story. There are 6 months frequently between them, and you have access points the whole way along.
Yes.
What also happens at the same time is that fans get very interested in this. The super fans have become, with the fragmentation of media, you can now just follow your club and everything about their club. Yes. That's a coincidental, it's synchronicity from your perspective that you come up at this precise moment in time as well, but that you're providing the content for all of the clubs that are desperate, the fans that are desperate for it.
Yes, it's not always easy, because it's impossible to cover all world news. But my mentality is always trying to be accurate. So my mission is to be accurate, because maybe if you're following only one single club, maybe your mission is always to be the first one, always, because this is to be the mission, and is also for me, of course. But when you're trying to cover news around the world, you always have to be accurate, because if people have to trust you, you have to be always respectful and accurate. I know it's something you want to talk about, and so I think it's a key point, because starting my networking, thanks to social media, because as I told you, I started with this Icardi news, but it was a normal phone call, it was not social media or something special. Then I started to share my news on social media, also in different languages, some English, some Spanish also when I started. And I was feeling that people wanted news with this system, this Italian system, let me say, because we in Italy are working since a long time on transfer news, 24 hours per day, calling people every single day. I wanted to bring this system on international system, in a completely different way.
Very important point there, that you started to do your broadcasting and your social media in English. That was a strategic decision that you made, going, actually, I have an audience here. What was the rationale behind that? When did you realize that was working?
I was starting to share some my news in Italian on social media when I started on Twitter, but I was feeling people asking me always in English, Fabrizio, what's going on, for example, for Balotelli or for Kovacic, for international players playing in Italy. So I said I need to provide them news in English. Why only in Italian? So this is how I started with Twitter, and I still think that Twitter is a key social media for sharing news for football, and not only, because it's incredible how people react immediately. So your news is everywhere in 5 minutes. And then I started also on Instagram. Instagram 5 years ago was completely different on my point of view, on football point of view. Maybe people were only sharing news for nice contents, fun contents, but was not something like serious or news. Now people are asking for news every single day, every single minute, let me say, also on Instagram, on private messages, on the posts. It's incredible. So I wanted to bring this news in English on all platforms.
Okay, you mentioned those two platforms, but Twitch, we were at a tech conference. Twitch is massive for you as well. When did Twitch become important?
I started with Twitch, my collaboration last July, because I wanted to bring also something with my face, because people are always in my tweet, my Instagram post and these kind of things, my articles on my channels, my collaborations. But then I said, on Twitch, you can have the direct impact with the people, no? So they can see you when you are saying something. So for example, I still remember last summer when I shared the news of Cristiano Ronaldo going back to Manchester United, it was 98K people online. It was incredible. I was saying there is more people here than in Camp Nou was in Barcelona playing. I was saying this is incredible, but the feeling they had in watching me speaking about this story was completely different than sharing the news on social media. So I like to be on different platforms to make people live the experience of a transfer news in different ways, and also for me, because I want to enjoy the moment. I don't want to be bored on this. I love this work. So.
Well, you talk about being able to enjoy the moment, but we just saw you backstage. You were tweeting the news, and you're non-stop. It's like it's constant.
Oh.
Do you relax? You're on the plane. Something happens. What do you do?
Yesterday was incredible. I was on a plane to come here, and I spent the whole night before saying, let's hope nothing is happening while I'm on the plane, because I know that tomorrow morning they have emergency meeting again for Nuno to be fired, and so maybe something is happening around midday. I had my plane, it was 11:30 in Italy, Italian time. So I was on the plane and I saw Nuno fired. Okay, we start, we have it. Then I spent 20 minutes calling, sending messages. I was on the plane, hoping it was not starting the plane. It was crazy, but I shared the news at the right moment, and then I was flying. So, it's also about being lucky, but you can never stop. If you want to be a sports journalist, in my opinion, working on transfers, you can never stop.
Well, I was going to say, so you're in Lisbon, it's a big football city. Do you take the opportunity to meet the football people here? Do they come to you and say, actually, you know what? I have some players, I'd like you to write about them, I'd like you to talk about them. How does that work?
Yes. This is happening, not only here, it's always happening because, it's part of football. Networking is key for me as a journalist, but I think also on the other side. What I try to bring is something positive for me as a journalist, so I'm sharing the news, I have the accurate news, but I want also the other people involved in the process to be 100% happy. So agents, because their players are getting value and their news has a value, and they're also having a value as agent working on the deal. Clubs, because a club is signing maybe a top player and it's important for the club to have a good reach on social media. So I'm always trying to bring them something positive. I think it's just an exchange. For me, it's about the news. For them, it's about what they have in exchange.
You talked about truth earlier. The agents sometimes will feed you stuff that might not be true. How do you work this out? What's your barrier against being a pawn for them in a bigger deal? How do you stop that?
When I started with journalists, with transfer journalists, was always like this. People always trying to share fake news and to have the name of their player on paper, on social media, these kind of things. It's part of the game. Now I think they know if they talk with me, I will never share anything. I'm not 100% sure that it's really actually happening. Because I'm checking with different sources. I have some sources that they can make me a call, and I'm sharing the news 2 minutes after because I trust them 100%. They are like my friends. But then I have different sources that I'm trying to do this kind of thing sometimes to push their player, to push their news, and I'm checking and checking and checking. So, sometimes you're not first also because of this.
Well, and the other thing is that people on the internet, they don't need to treat you very well. They can say whatever they want about you, and sometimes a story can be true, but then it changes at the last minute, and what was true 5 weeks ago might not be true today. So how do you deal with that? Because
I deal with that also always trying to bring people behind the scenes of transfer market. You ask me why you are on Twitch, for example. Because on Twitter you can share news, but telling people the story behind the news is completely different. Taking your time, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, go live and tell people what's really going on behind the story, the transfer story. I think is so important because, as you said, transfer market, I think, is a jungle. I always say, is a jungle. Everything can happen every single day. So you have to be prepared that everything can happen also when you're not expecting this. For example, look at Cristiano Ronaldo. It was seeming so close to join Man City, and then he joined Man United. It was a bomb. Look at Leo Messi. Leo Messi was in Barcelona to sign the new contract with Barca, and 6 hours later, he was a free agent with Paris Saint-Germain, signing him 2 days later. So what I do is try to explicate people what's going on behind the scenes. Then you can trust me or not. But my job is to tell you what's going on. I can't predict things, or I can't sign contracts. I'm a journalist.
From your own perspective, what's next, Fabrizio? You don't have a single day job. You have multi-platforms. You have your own owned and operated Twitch. You own your, obviously, Instagram and Twitter accounts. But from a revenue perspective, as the business of Fabrizio Romano, what's next?
I'm sure that with the next social media, you have always to be updated, always to be ready with what you want to do. It's always about transfers for me. So on my side, I want to continue with transfers. I want to continue the best level, but it's about being accurate. Let me say, it's about being respectful with sources, because now it's just matter to wait and see what will be the next social media to try to share my news and my info. but it's always about the network. If you save your network and if you're respectful with your network, next social media, next step is just a matter of time. But you have to be respectful with your network, and then you have to be accurate, because people will trust you only if you will be accurate and respectful, in my opinion.
Would you like to work for one media company? Would that be a bad thing or a good thing? Because you work with Sky Italia, we read you in The Guardian, you work with loads of different people. Does the freedom from being freelance give you more independence, or would you like at some point to have a career with a single media platform in one country even, and another one in a different country?
No, I love it. I love it, to be honest. When I say that transfer market is a jungle, I think that also if you want to be a sports journalist in transfer market, be part of the jungle also means to be in the jungle yourself. So I feel in the jungle because I'm working with different, as you say, with different papers, with The Guardian, or with different brands like Sky in Italy. But for me, it's always meeting with new people, having contacts with different people, sharing my news in different ways. You know, for example, The Guardian is traditional and is something fantastic to me. I'm so proud to work with The Guardian. But also Sky in Italy is so important. It's the biggest one we have in Italy. CBS Sports in the USA is now growing up on football. So I like to change, always change and try new things for myself and for my collaboration. So this is why I'm looking forward to try always something new.
One last thing I wanted to ask about was the abuse that people get on social media has become much more prevalent. Are you conscious of it? Can you block that out? Are you able to deal with that?
I'm really, to be honest, I'm really happy with social media life. And many times I see that people are criticizing, maybe accusing. As you say, sometimes transfer stories are changing. And so look at, as I mentioned, Leo Messi or Ronaldo, and maybe people are accusing you. But I feel that at the end, like the 85% of people are understanding that transfer market is a crazy word. And if you want to follow it, or you can have the official statements, so you wait and you don't want to criticize journalists. But if you want to be part of this jungle, you have to accept this kind of situation. So I'm really happy with my social media life, and I have to say thank you to social media because it's part of my life 100%.